right, on this episode, we are going to cover something that really has nothing to do with investing in New York State, but anyone who listens to this will have a better mindset, or I guess I would say philosophy, on this whole idea of passive income and this whole myth of retiring. And we're also going to cover really doing what you love. A lot of people read self-help books, and the first chapter usually says you got to do what you love. And if that's underwater basket weaving, you find a way to get rich. And we're going to kind of debunk a lot of that today. So Michael, I know we were talking about this on the phone. You made a video about this like last week, and I called you. I'm like, dude, that was a great video. As I say on every video you make, by the way.
Thank you. I wish.
So I want you to start, because you've been in business longer than me, and you got some years on me. So where's your experience with all this crap?
So the topic of that video was because someone had asked me what my long-term plans are. And I find that I see a lot of people at like Investorfield, the mastermind we're a part of, or in other groups, and they have this plan, and they've got this plan from somebody else, which is basically, I'm going to start wholesaling, right? I saw on the internet you can make like $12,000 in a week doing that. And I'm going to make some quick cash wholesaling. Then I'm going to make enough money to rehab. I'm going to wholesale for like 6 months because it's going to take so quick. And then I'm going to rehab for like 2 years. I'm going to make so much money. I'm going to buy all these rentals. And then I'm just going to sit on a beach and look at my phone and watch as my rental income pours in and pays for my 6 Bentleys and my 4 Ferraris. Like, that's the idea. And I think that that's incredibly attractive to a lot of people, right? Oh, sure. I'm going to do this easy thing, to do something that's a little bit harder so that I can do nothing all day. And what I said, and what resonated, I think, with you when we discussed it, was that number one, this idea that I'm going to do nothing all day is such a stupid myth that so many people, even the people who've accomplished, like, they've made more money, like they start a company, and I know guys that started companies and sold for like 8 figures, right? Sold companies for like $10 million, right? It's really enough money, never need to work again, right? For really generational wealth, right? You can live off the interest for 4 generations. You'll probably be okay
forever. Yeah.
And most of these guys, some of them, not most, some of them thought they would do nothing all day, and they all got really depressed from that. And what's more important than having enough money to not work is having a purpose in life and doing something that you enjoy doing. And what I said in the video was that I'm 51, right? I never want to stop doing this. I love what I do. I love it, right? If you told me I'm going to do this at 91, I would say that's amazing. I would do it at 101, right? Because I like it, right? And now I'm not saying it's all rainbows and butterflies, right? There are days that I'm upset and there is some stress involved, but overall, I really like what I'm doing. I believe we're doing a good thing. We're helping people. We're helping sellers. We're helping buyers, making money while we're doing it, this challenge of doing deals. And that whole, I'm going to wholesale for 2 weeks so that I can rehab for 2 years so that I can just buy rentals, is foolish for a lot of reasons. First of all, most of the people that we know that own rentals are not sitting back and doing nothing. The idea that I'm just going to hire a property management company and I'm going to do nothing but count my incredibly vast and growing money from my rentals is something that doesn't usually work. Now, there are people in my area who have, hundreds of buildings, dozens of thousands of units, and those guys are very wealthy, right? Incredibly wealthy. Well, I know a guy, he just donated $10 million to an organization I'm affiliated with. He did it anonymously, but I know it's him. $10 million. So this guy has a lot of money, right? If you can donate $10 million, you got a lot of money.
You got a lot of money. Yeah.
This guy goes to work every day, right? He doesn't sit on his ass, right? He has a crazy ass house. He has all this stuff, but he works. And I would think if you told him, or you went to him and said, "Why do you work all day?" he would probably say something like, "What's wrong with you?" Like, that's, yeah. A lot of people define themselves by their work. Now, I also know people that work their ass off when they don't need to, and that's crazy, right? I have a friend who's a woman. She's a partner in a huge firm, and she barely sees her kids. And she openly says, like, it's competition. Like, she wants to be the managing partner of this firm one day. So that's also nuts, right? She works every single Sunday. She works every single night. She barely sees her kids. That's crazy too. But everybody's got to find a purpose, a point where they are happy doing what they're doing, where it doesn't get in the way of the rest of the important things in life. But I just think that I define freedom. Freedom to me is not just having enough money that I know I can pay my bills and keep my family fed and under a roof. But freedom is a big part of freedom to me, is having time freedom, right? So another thing I said in that video is that I know guys that are doctors or lawyers. they make a lot of money. Some make a bunch of make more money than me for sure, but they really don't have time freedom, right? If they want to leave, right, they can't leave. If they're on a case, if they're doing surgery, they're not leaving in the middle, right? Their kid calls them and says, I got to pick you up, and they're in the middle of surgery. They're not leaving, right? So they don't really have the time freedom. So I wouldn't trade places with them, even for more money. For me, I know I can do what I, right? Well, how did they define it? Real freedom is doing what you want, when you want,
with who you want,
with who you want, right? That's real freedom. So this business to me has given me that, and I don't think I could go back to a 9 to 5 if I had to, because I don't want to ask somebody's permission to go do what I want to do. So to me, that's really what the business provides. And I did it a little differently, right? So I started rehabbing because I didn't understand wholesaling at all 10 years ago when I started doing this full time. And I was fine rehabbing. And then after doing rehabbing for 4 years, I decided I don't want to deal with contractors and building departments. I'd rather wholesale. So I still do some of that, but I moved more towards a wholesaling model so that I can scale up the business in a way where I don't think I'm going to be upset by it. But that was the gist of my post, and I stand behind that. The idea of retirement, we've sort of been ingrained in this country, certainly earlier generations, of this idea of retirement, where you do a job that you may like or you may hate, and you're going to do it for the best 30 years of your life, right? From, let's say, your mid-20s to your mid-50s or 60s, or best 40 years of your life. And then you're going to get this pension and retire, and you're going to be so happy that you can retire all day and live off this, defined benefit plan. And it to me, it's insane, because if you're trading the best 30 or 40 years of your life for something you don't like, and then you're going to not have anything to do, you're going to be depressed while you're working, and you're going to be depressed after you work. So that whole concept to me is foolish. I don't understand it. And it's sometimes it's hard to talk to somebody who's older than us about it, right? They like retirement. Retirement seems like a dumb idea to me. Do something you enjoy doing, and do it till you don't want to do it anymore. That's the way I look at
it. That is so well said. That's just like a mic drop, even though we got 30 more minutes on this show. So I mean, I'll tell you what, man. Everything you said, I wholeheartedly agree with. And when I communicate with new investors, I can relate to them very, very well, because I'm, a lot farther down the road than they are. But really, usually I'm older than they are. I'm younger than they are, right? Or I'm the same age. Maybe they're a little younger than me. I'm getting a little old now, believe it or not.
Oh, yeah, you're ancient.
Yeah. No, but I mean, in like real estate years, I'm getting.
There's a lot of younger people in our business for sure.
Yeah. So I tell them one thing. I'm like, listen, I remember the first time. So when I got started, this story will make sense in a minute. I remember when I got started, I was very, very young. I was a young kid, and I was like doing all of these activities literally for free, basically, because I wasn't skilled enough to make money. And I really enjoyed it. And I loved putting out bandit signs, and I loved handwriting letters in the beginning. Obviously your activities change as you grow.
Right.
But I remember doing it for free, and I really liked it. I was listening to podcasts in the car that I was listening that I could barely pay for, and like scooting around my schoolwork. And like, I was always pretty good in college. So like, it wasn't really hard for me. But I remember I was like, I'm doing this for free, and I like it. And I remember I got my first deal, and I had a check for like there was a small check. And I was like, holy shit, I just made money doing something that I enjoyed. And I was like, my relationship with money changed. And as I've made, a lot of money since, and as you have made a lot of money since, the process to me, it will change. But I tell people to this day, I fucking love this game. I love working with my team. I'm still involved in my business. Like, I still do a lot of shit, and I love it, and I love doing it. And I say to people, listen, to me, this does not work. But yeah, there are days that suck. I get stressed out AF a lot of the times. There's a lot of bullshit, a lot of stuff out of my control, out of your control, that can really be stressful. But overall, I remember when I was 19 years old, not in a labor union, but my dad's friend had a flooring company, and I was putting floors in ShopRites in the middle of New Jersey overnight with people who got out of prison. And I was making good money, right? Like $20 an hour back in 2012, 2013 wasn't bad. And I remember one time, the first week I worked there, and this is just like a summer gig, because I was like a fucking idiot with no money. And I got a check for like $500 something, which was a lot of money for that work. And I was like, all right, this is good money, right? And I had no expenses. And I was like, I just busted my ass for $500 something, and I got to go back and do it again the next day. And I just remember being like, I made the best of that situation. Like I wasn't bitching about it, but I was like, there's got to be a better way to make money. And I remember every time I was at a 9 to 5 job, like I was a lifeguard and did the flooring thing and worked at a golf course when I was like 20 or no, 19, 18 and 19. I was like, I remember I had to go there in order to get money. The only reason I was there was for money. And I was like, there's got to be a different way to do this. And I just remember like, I wasn't even reading books at the time. I was just like, there's got to be a better way to make money. Like, and like my parents never shit on me, but they never like were like, oh yeah, go be your own boss. Like they didn't know anything about that, but they never shit on me. So it was kind of lucky that way. And I remember starting to make money as a self-employed person. And I started to just be like, holy shit, my income is directly tied to what I can bring to the market and how good I am at it. And ever since then, like I've always been like, this shit is fun. And the more successful I get, ironically, the harder I work. And I'm less lazy now than I was when I had no money, which is really funny because technically you and I could fuck off for a very long time and pretty much be good for a while. Like we're not billionaires, but like I tell, like I'm working way harder now than I was. And the more successful I get, the more I want to work because it's like you get this feedback loop because
it's like that with most people. But if you have the ability to work or not work and you choose to work, then that's fine. Like the idea that's been sold to people is that you're going to trade your time for money, right? So, and I'm talking on all ends of the spectrum, whether you're flipping burgers and making minimum wage, or whether you're a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon, and you're making
7 figures,
$5,000 an hour.
Yeah.
Anytime you're trading your time for money, that's limited. We all have the same amount of time. You, me, Jeff Bezos, we all have the same amount of time, right? Whoever, Elon Musk, we all are awake for what, 16 hours a day? That's it, right? We sleep for some part of it. We all have to eat. We all have to crap. We all have to do stuff like that. So how many more hours can you do? You can't, right? And then if you want to enjoy your life, spend time with your family, go on vacation, do things that come up, helping your family, whatever it is. Every one of those reduces your time. So the idea to me that the idea to me to take a job where you trade your time for money is crazy. I took a job a long time ago, right? Before I was married, I was working for a company called RGUS, Regis, and it was they take inventory on major retailers. Like we were going to like big companies and we'd sit there, and it was back-breaking work. We'd go into a store after it closed, bent over. We have to scan each thing, and like it was the pay was shit. And I was like, this is really bad. Like I didn't know what back-breaking labor was, and I'm sure there's much harder labor than that, right? You got picking strawberries out in the field and is probably even harder. But like this back-breaking labor, but it's just a mindset. Like if you think that's all you've got to work with, then that's what you're going to do. But like you said, there's a much better way, right? You have to leverage knowledge. You have to leverage other people. You have to leverage, like you are probably the biggest consumer of knowledge that I know. You're always listening. You're always sending me podcasts you're listening to. I'm like, you just sent me a half hour ago. You must be listening on like 5 speed of these podcasts.
I've listened to thousands. I don't even know. Like
it's amazing. I'm not as good. I should, but I don't. So I try to listen, but I don't. I try to consume knowledge, but I don't consume it like you do. But that's clearly been one of your strengths. But the idea that you're taking that knowledge and leveraging it is what you're doing. You're finding we're finding a system where we can leverage our knowledge, our expertise, our ability to find the deal, ability to find the buyer for it, and then the possibilities are exponential, right? There are guys doing what we do, making $1 million a month. I mean, bringing in $1 million a month in revenue, $1 million a month, right? That's it. There are guys.
They're doing it with smaller teams too. They're not doing it with a huge ecosystem. They're doing it with a lean.
You interviewed Josh Cohen. Josh Cohen did like $800,000 last month. He's gonna do $1 million pretty soon. That is doable. And if Josh Cohen wants to go away for 3 weeks, he probably could, and and he could call in twice during that time and be fine. So
100%.
That's the power of leverage, and I think it's very, very hard for a lot of people to get that into their minds, that there is a better way. They almost feel like, well, okay, I need to quit my job and I need to spend 9 to 5 doing wholesaling, so that for X amount of time before I spend 9 to 5 doing rehabbing before I can then be free and clear. And it's just not how it works, right? You and I work more than 9 to 5 because we like doing it, and sometimes it takes more time. But if we don't want to, we don't have to.
Exactly. That's the thing about this business before we get into the rental income myth that I want to fucking talk about for 90 hours, because we both own rentals and know how that fucking works. So the beautiful thing about the wholesaling or any business when you're in sales, like whether you're rehabbing and developing multi-million-dollar homes or you're assigning contracts in Pennsylvania for $15,000, it's the same shit. It is what you want it to be. You do not need to have it be a massive behemoth business. And you can, if you're really good, like I would say, if you and I were trapped on an island for 2 hours with a laptop and a telephone and the knowledge we have, and I'm not trying to like flex on how smart we are, but we could sit there if we only had 2 hours and then we had to go, get our food for the night to cook, right? Ironically, I'm on like this carnivore diet, so I'd have to hunt a bison. But basically, we could find a way to make money in those 2 hours. And if anyone watching the show or listening to the show, if you only have 2 hours and you're really efficient, you can make money within those 2 hours. And eventually you'll make enough money to probably quit your job to then spend more time, because most likely you will enjoy the business. I do know some people who don't enjoy the business, and that's fine. And that's up to them. But I was telling my friend this the other day. We're on the beach hanging out. And I was like, dude, I fucking love doing deals, man. Because we did a deal together, and I gave him some money on a wholesale deal. He brought the buyer. And I was like, dude, I just fucking love this business, man. I'm like, and he could hear in my voice, I was like, bro, like there's nothing like it. Like, this is so fun. And he doesn't like the business as much as I do. And he's like, man, what should I do? Like, and I'm like, what do you like doing? And he's like, I really like making YouTube videos. I'm like, well, dude, you already have a business that makes you a lot. He has a big agency. And I'm like, dude, you already make really, really good money in your agency business. And he makes good money wholesaling. He literally does zero work. Like, he just, gets leads. And I'm like, just put up more time into YouTube. And like, if that eventually makes you money, you're already making money. And then you can even use your YouTube channel that you're making that you like to promote your business.
This guy's making millions of dollars a year just as YouTube influencers.
There's guys making $1 million a week on YouTube if you really are good. I mean, listen, that's a whole nother, skill set. But there's just so many ways to use this business as like a utility tool to do whatever you want. And I know people we have some friends who they're lifestyle driven. They really like to work for 2 hours a day. They really love going. Like, I have some friends who love going to Europe and fucking off, and they have their VAs running their business, and that's great. I don't know if I would like that, just because I like to be involved. I could do it. I would test it. But like, at the end of the day, like, you can make this business whatever you want.
For sure.
The second myth I want to cover before we wrap the
show.
Before we do
rentals.
Okay.
Two things. So 2 things I just want to talk about what you said. So first of all, this concept of, big team versus small team. There are guys who really want a big team. Like, Steve Enns, the guy in Vancouver?
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Very good guy. Great guy.
Nice guy.
He just rented like a huge office in like the most expensive building there. Yeah. And he wants to have like 40 acquisition guys, in the office banging a gong every time they do it. Like, that's his vision for his business. That's fine, right? I have no problem with that if that's what you want. But for me, I don't. All those Keegley guys, they got 40 full-time employees that they pay a salary to.
Crazy.
Like, that's not how I envision my business. I don't want that. I don't want to have to look every 2 weeks, every payday, and see if I have $45,000 for payroll and watch that go out when I don't do as many deals as I want. So that's not my vision of the business. But if it's somebody's vision of the business, that's fine. By the way, Josh Cohen has a pretty big team, but then there are guys who have 2 small teams that do it. So I always err on the side of leaner and less overhead. There's one other thing you said that I forgot about. Was it the lifestyle business? Oh yeah. So I mean, it's really, everybody's different, right? Some people want to golf, for 10 months out of the year. If they do, then that's fine. That's great, right? Oh, I know what it was. So it's actually from this book that I'm constantly reading called The Road Less Stupid. So he's like, listen, even Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Elon Musk, he goes, the idea that they are not involved in their businesses.
Oh my gosh, dude! I'm so happy you brought that.
They're involved. He goes, now, Bill Gates is not typing code for people for the next Microsoft Outlook, and Elon Musk is not making cars, and Jeff Bezos isn't sitting there delivering packages. He goes, but the idea that they're not involved in the business is ridiculous. They're involved, right? They're involved as much as they want to, and at a CEO level. And I think that everybody has to decide what that involvement is. But the idea, we have this fallacy, this thing we've been sold this crazy bill of goods that you're going to get to point X, whatever that point is, a certain number of money in the bank, a certain number of deals, a certain size of the business, whatever it is, and then like a light bulb's going to go off, and you're going to go, oh, I'm going to my private island that I just bought, and I'm going to drink Mai Tais all day. And it's almost ridiculous if you think about it. If you think someone who really is involved in a business and loves that business is going to be happy not being involved in the business at all, it's not true. And we've heard so many. I've heard so many stories of people that did that and really fell into a depression. Right? Their entire sense of purpose went out the window, and they couldn't deal with it. Right? We follow Alex Hormozi. That guy, he did that. Right? He had an exit. We had an exit for like $28 million. He sold his company, and he was super depressed, and he was upset that he wasn't having cash flow coming in, even though he got a check for $28 million. Like, the way you have to think is that if this is something you enjoy, you have to be involved with it at some point. You can change your involvement. You can delegate certain duties. You can hire a COO if that's what you want. But the idea that you're just going to let it fly and be happy is almost crazy.
It's so true, because the more you grow the business too, like the stuff that I do now is completely different than the stuff that I was doing. Right. And it's like, I love The Road Less Stupid, because it's like that book there's just so many things in there that make so much sense, because it's so good. But anyway, if you're not reading that book, you got to check that book. It's like you can read that thing every day, like a chapter a day. But
I go through 2 chapters a week with a book club. We're on the second time through it, and I'd read it before. It's my 3rd time through it. I think I'm going to read it for the rest of my life. That's how much I like it.
It's like, at the end of the day, like, even the people that you and I know who make more money than we do in this business, they're making a lot of decisions, right? And a lot of people, and here's the thing in our industry, which is a little unfortunate. The whole idea of automating your business is obviously doable. People do it all the time. But I can tell you right now, you and I know some of the biggest dogs in the room. We could call them right after this podcast and they'll pick up. They will tell us the truth, because they have nothing to hide from us. They're still doing stuff in their business. They're still meeting with their team. Once you have a team, you're like the coach instead of the quarterback. Like, you're not, coach and quarterback. Like, you're calling. I'm reviewing the deals. I'm making sure I'm buying them. And
even these guys aren't. There's constant personnel changes. You know, we also, another myth we have is we're going to get the best people and they're going to stay with us forever. Well, here's a little nugget. Nobody stays forever. People leave, right? And when people leave, if you're running the business, you're going to have to figure out how to replace them. Who's going to deal with that stuff? Even if you have a COO, your COO could leave, right? So the idea that you're putting this automation in place and never having to deal with it is absurd. The main reason is personnel, right? Personnel change, right? It's just a fact of life. I just had a position where somebody left, I hired somebody else, and now this person left. I got to hire somebody again. All right, I'm upset for I think I give myself like 30 seconds of being upset, and then I realize it's probably for the better, and I should move on. That's it.
That's a great mindset. That's even better than the 5-minute rule. There's like the 5-minute rule, and you've condensed it to 30 seconds. That's very impressive.
Yeah, like you can feel sorry for yourself about 30 seconds, and then you got to do that. One of the key ways to feeling better. This is not just business but life. Key ways to feel better when something bad happens to you is to do something about it, right? So obviously certain things are uncontrollable and are terrible, death of a loved one, something like that. But short of that, you probably can do something to improve. And the problem I think most people have is that they look at a lot of events in their life and they feel like they're out of their control, even though they aren't. Like, I'm broke. Okay, so then go do something, make some money, for example. But once you actually make some kind of effort towards fixing the problem, you already start feeling better, because at least you're doing something.
And you're on the right path.
Right. It's a feeling of helplessness that's really the big issue.
100%. It's all, I mean, all these psychologists from back in the day, like, it all stems in that kind of, it's the mindset. It's how you reframe it. Because
100%. You
can reframe bad or good. And if you reframe it in a good way, you'll be on the right track fast. So as we start to wrap the show up, we got 10 minutes left here. There's one more myth that it has to do with real estate investing that you and I know very well. And it's this rental. I don't even say passive income anymore, because it's bullshit. This whole idea that once you have some money and you buy some rent, because rentals, I don't recommend rentals for beginners personally. I think it's not nonsensical. Even if you're buying anyway, that's a whole other topic. But rental properties, from my experience, and I had 9 at a time, then I sold some, and now I have 4, right? So I don't have a ton of them, but I have enough to where it's, there's stuff I got to deal with. That business, from my experience, you can get that a little bit more automated than flipping, but there's still problems that come up all the time with rentals. And we have friends, Uncle Joe Lieber, he's got like 100 they call him the ghettoologist.
Go get him. He's got like 600 doors in Cleveland. He drives a Bentley. He's funny. I think he drives a Rolls, not even a Bentley, but he's funny, Joe. Yeah.
He's a big dog. But even guys like that, you have to do shit with rentals. You cannot, if you make a rental passive, you are going to get smoked, steamrolled, especially if it's a multi-unit.
For sure. And I speak about this a lot, but like there are 2 guys I really, really respect in this business. There are a lot of guys I really respect in this, but 2 of them, they're both in Utah. One is Cody Hoffine and one is Jason Lewis. And they
great guys. They
said something that made me so happy. They said, and they have multi 7-figure businesses where they have big teams and they know what they're doing. They have forgotten more about this business than I'll ever know probably. And they said, whenever we take any part of our business, rentals, whatever it is, and we don't check on it for a few months, it always turns to shit. And I'm like, wow, if these guys are saying that, I can just imagine about my business. So that's also a myth that rental income is passive. Like I know guys who are huge in rental. They work every day. There's things coming up. And the idea is, I could just get a property manager. But the truth is, your property manager is going to screw things up. You have to manage the manager. And property managers leave, or they say, I'm not dealing with this building anymore, or this house anymore. So the idea that it's completely passive really doesn't fly. You're always going to have to be involved, and that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing, right? This drive to sit on a beach, right? What was that line in Die Hard when Hans says to him that they're never going to find us, and we're taking all these bearer bonds, and he goes, and then in 2 months we'll be on a beach earning 12%. Like that's his thing. Like it's everybody's dream. I'm going to be on a beach earning 12%. I'm going to rack up this, $10 million. I'm just earn 12% on it. I'm going to earn 1.2 million to sit on the beach, drink my Mai Tais like at the end of another movie, Trading Places, right? Where we're all
You're a movie guy, huh?
Yeah. So that's just something that our mind plays tricks on us to do, right? We're going to get to point X and then we're going to do nothing. But it's foolish because there's never a point X, right? You just keep moving the goalpost. You make more money, you do more, you want it more. And then there's never that point. You don't want to do nothing. You want to be involved. That's why you live, right? When people have no purpose, that's when they die, right? That's how I look at it. Like you want to still have a purpose. You want to be involved, right? That's why what we started at with this idea of I'm just going to retire and do nothing all day. Like that's not a good thing.
It's insane. And in The Road Less Stupid, he talks about, imagine having a passive marriage or a passive fitness regimen, passive personal development regimen, passive relationships with your friends. You're going to be
everything important in your life requires your input and your effort.
Activity. What does Jim Rohn says? Rest as a necessity, not as an objective, right? It's true. I rest and unplug because I got to, because I'm a human, but I'm not like, it's funny you say this, like, I remember I went on a vacation to Hawaii a couple of years ago and I unplugged for the most part, mainly because of the time difference. It was just like unreasonable to like work at fucking 2 a.m. I was like sitting there and I had a great time. It was fun. But I remember the last like day of the vacation or 2 days of the vacation, I was like, man, I am freaking BORED. I can only so many I was drinking Mai Tais the whole time. That's actually where the podcast germinated, the Paved the Way podcast, after about 6 Mai Tais with Devin. But seriously, that was a funny time. But I was like, man, so I remember I was like, fuck, I got to get some shit done. So I went right to this cafe, sat down on my computer, and I was like, yo, I got to do some shit. Like I was getting stir crazy. And, it's funny because like, I feel like when people do take some rest and they recover and some people do it weekly or whatever, it's like, you're so much more energized to get back at it. Like I personally am not the biggest fan of the weekends. Obviously I have fun on the weekends. Like on Sunday night, I'm like, yeah, let's get after it. I'm planning my week. I'm planning Monday. Like I got everything lined up. I got all the goals for the week and shit. And, some people live for the weekend and that's fine. But if you find what you like to do, you will start to, your work and your play will be intertwined. Like you're like, for example, let's say the team's not working on a Saturday, they're busy, and I get a lead that comes in and I'm not doing anything. I'm going to call the lead back because like, it's like, number one, I feel like it's my obligation. And number two, it's like, I get to make a 2-minute phone call and maybe buy a house. Like that's not work,
Right. I think someone could do like a study on this, but like, I wake up pretty early. You wake up pretty early.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we wake up early and why a lot of people don't wake up early is, I think people are like not happy, and they look at sleep as a escape from their unhappiness, right? But you and I are happy. We like what we're doing, so I don't want to sleep more than I have to because I like when I'm awake, right?
Yeah,
I think a lot of people, and a lot of people don't. You wake them up 5 minutes earlier than the alarm clock and they start screaming at you like you're a jerk. And like, I don't know, like if someone woke me up 5 minutes before an alarm clock, I wouldn't be upset at all. Like, okay, I'll get up a little earlier. That's fine. Like I look like I like when I'm awake, right? Sleeping is a necessity, but I don't, and I love my sleep. Don't get me wrong. But like, I think a lot of people look at sleep as like the alternative to what's an unhappy existence.
To what they're doing. It's just like their life pause button. And it's interesting. Like when someone is really good at like having a routine too, like for example, and we could do another show on this, honestly, because this would be applicable to people executing plans. But like when it comes to like getting up early, like I have my day planned out in advance the night before. So like when I get up, like it's not a guessing game. It's like I'm an actor following a script. So like I get up, I got this podcast, I was reading before this. I got my team huddle, like everything I'm doing for the day is strategically planned because I want to, not because I have to. And when I'm done at like 6 o'clock tonight, and I'm not going to feel guilty for going watching a little TV or like, eating a steak and watching one of your videos or something. Like it's like, or going for a walk. Like when you can strategically, and then that's the whole thing when you're self-employed is like, when you can create your schedule, you don't mind your schedule. But if someone else creates your schedule, I understand why there is a little bit of resentment because you ultimately are not in control of that. But when you're designing, okay, I'm going to work from 3 to 7 and I'm going to, it just allows you to like have more control, which ultimately, and we're not psychologists, but we've read a lot on this stuff. You feel happier because you are in control. It's called the internal locus of control. I believe that's what it's called. Something like that.
Correct. I mean, what they found, I think, is that people that live more structured lives live happier lives, which seems counterintuitive, right? You would think freedom. Whatever you'd want to do, that would make you happy. But the people who are like killing themselves are usually people who have everything, and the people who have some kind of struggle are the people who are finding a way to have a purpose in life and keep going. So planning your day. Some people look at you and go, planning your day. Why don't you just do whatever the hell you want? But that's because in reality, that doesn't end up making you happy or making you productive. It makes you less productive and less happy.
It's like a ship without a rudder. It's like, it's like me, and then we'll end the show in a minute. It's like, if I wanted to drive to Long Island from San Diego, right, I could basically wing it. I kind of know how to get there because it's like 3 roads. But if I put the damn thing in my GPS and I have a target I'm looking for and there's a strategy to get there and I follow a plan, I'm going to get there in the most, maybe there's construction on one road, so it directs me a different way because I strategically planned it out. It's the same kind of thing. When you just have your day organized and you have control over it, it just allows your day to go as smooth as it possibly can. And it just straight up makes you happier. So to wrap the show up, we got to both jump off here in a minute. Make sure that you're getting into this business for the right reasons. Do not think that once you quote unquote make it, you're going to do nothing, because I guarantee you're going to be miserable. And understand that if you're buying rental properties, especially, they are not passive, they are active. You definitely have more of a predictable system if you know what you're doing. However, you're going to have to always be involved in your business to some extent. Don't listen to what people say. You're going to have to make some decisions, and it's going to ultimately make you feel better. And I hope everyone listening got value. And if they did get value, if they can leave us a review on iTunes and YouTube and whatnot, Spotify, it'd be greatly appreciated. Michael, I know you and I both got to run. I will catch you on the next episode.
Bye-bye.